Jæja, velkomin aftur í ferðalagið. Nú það síðasti hlutin sem heitir The Message in the Bottle, an experiential journey to the source. We're gonna look into storytelling from multiple perspectives, touching upon advertising and scents and memories, and starting with Ferdinando Verderi, then joined on stage with Bragi Valdimar, and then Fischersund concludes the day. Is everybody in? Yay, more or less. Okay, this is the last sprint of the day before the very big pit stop upstairs. Okay, shall we do it? Woohoo! Let's do it.
Ferdinando Verderi, Creative Director. A creative director responsible for some of the most radical fashion imagery of the past half-decade. Ferdinando Verderi has been pioneering methods of redirecting editorial and advertising moments into an investigation towards new forms of messaging. He is most known for his continued partnership with Prada, his tenure at Vogue Italia, and masterminding the Louis Vuitton Yayoi Kusama collaboration.
Hi. It works. Great. Hi, everyone. So thank you for the invite. And I thought probably the best thing I could do, since the theme was source, was to address this big perception of the idea of a source of ideas being this sort of finite and precise origin that sometimes we call inspiration, and that feels like something really distant somehow. And, but I'd like to take some perspective, some context in which I think we all operate in the world of design, as design in the broader sense. We obviously are all expected to acknowledge scale. That is a growing challenge, a growing force. Even when we don't want to follow the scale as a sort of as a goal, we have to deal with acknowledging the world is becoming one. And this leads to the idea of standardization, the need for standardization, which in a way really pushes us towards a way of thinking that needs to be single-minded, and somehow it nourishes this fear of complexity, which I think we all deal with when we have to create. The fear of complexity in the world we live in is somehow something I wanted to reframe, also because looking at the definition of complexity, it's very obvious that what feels like a big enemy is actually pretty much synonymous for one of the ideas that we all feel more connected to, which is the idea of community. So if you look at this very generic definition of complexity from Wikipedia, or I think it's Wikipedia actually, a system or model whose components interact in multiple ways and follow local rules, leading to nonlinear randomness, collective dynamic, hierarchy, and emergence, culminating in a higher order of emergence greater than the sum of its parts. So it feels really like we are talking about something that we know also as community. So I would love to create this parallel between the idea of complexity and the idea of community, proposing ideas, and I'll go through some of my work that has been selected to address different angles on this theme. Ideas that try to break through the idea of a monolithic representation of visual, and to break it apart into something that feels more fragmented. And with this fragmentation, the role of the audience, the role of the community, we call it, becomes more important. It goes from the community being a destination from the ideas to the community being a medium for the ideas. Actually, being a medium, it's very close to being a source, because the idea of reinterpreting every message we hear, it's a given today. So these ideas try from different angles to look at fragmentation as a force or sometimes as a source even. The first idea, I'll go really quickly through them because I think the quantity makes the point stronger. The first idea is an example that I created with Italian Vogue when I was a creative director with Italian Vogue for a couple of years. This is a very literal example of what I was speaking about. Obviously, the Vogue cover is a very important asset for the magazine. It's the whole idea of luxury is often based on the idea of an exclusivity. Exclusivity is based on scarcity. So having the one cover, it's with one person, it's an important rule. And for this particular issue, we created 100 different covers with 100 different people, all of them sort of with a story to tell. And so basically dividing the most precious asset into 100, almost like fragmenting the value of it. Actually, my theory is that actually it did enhance it, and it allowed for the women in the covers to become part of the idea, not just featured in the idea. And then each of them had, just as a proof of this, had the opportunity to tell us the story of their life. Maybe the audio will be higher in just in a minute.
I've been all around the world though, but you know, New York is what it is, you know. So
people you wouldn't usually find.
I am Saskia. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. My name is Ashfu. I am 23 years old.
The second idea, it's very different, but somehow it does respond to very similarly to this dynamic of fragmenting as a monolithic message. And with Prada, we decided to create this experiment that became an advertising campaign where the advertising wasn't displayed on in the magazine, but it actually ended up there, but it pioneered as a piece of paper that would be distributed to hundreds of florists around the world. They would wrapping around the flowers that they were selling, and you would stumble on your way home in several cities to flowers with this Prada wrapping that featured the advertising campaign. And so sort of an experiment for the idea of entering the everyday as opposed to being waiting for the audience into space where you're supposed to be found. Obviously then you will stumble on it, you would take it, you photograph it, you will become an integral part of this process. So there is also an idea of losing the control that sometimes communication is really interested in when you talk about this type of explosion of layers into what otherwise could be a very simple idea.
You can find the Prada 2020.
This is another idea that we did with Prada. It's another experiment in a sense. I like this word because those are all kind of never done before. But this is an auction that instead of creating a campaign, this was during COVID, it was quite unethical to create photo shoots. So we took everything that had been created during the last fashion show, partnered with Sotheby's, and created an auction that would sell every item. And the proceeds would help UNESCO, which was dealing with obviously a lot of very important issues as they do. So it was also a collective experience in the sense that the community participation was key to the completion of this sort of project. This is a much more recent project. I'm jumping between times just to keep it more less linear. This is an exhibition I was asked to curate by Italian Vogue very recently. It was about the 60 years of Vogue, and so they asked me to create the exhibition design. The idea for me was to play on this the idea of history and to try to propose a non-linear timeline so that things that were maybe 60 years old would be next to things that are today, and the audience wouldn't necessarily know which is which, and try to sort of get beyond our expectation of something, something being of a certain generation. So we created these 60 stands that were completely movable, And each of them had one copy of a magazine inside representing 1 year. And then behind each of them, there was the interpretation of a writer from today, not necessarily from the world of fashion, but also including Emanuele Coccia, who spoke today. And so as an audience, you would be invited to play with the exhibition, with the timeline. You would have the ability to readjust it at your own desire, to create your own storyline, to completely disregard the idea of time as imposed by the chronology looking at the past now. The next idea, it's also a campaign for Prada, and it was very directly addressing this interest of creating a dialogue with the audience. Also trying to discover, obviously new ways of using this potential that the advertising campaigns are to experiment with what it could be. And so in this case, the campaign was actually asking questions to the audience that were sometimes difficult to answer, actually. And they were of real interest to the brand process, and question that we ask ourselves every day. And we collected thousands and thousands of answers from the audience and compiled a book. So the project culminated in this book that contained a lot of the answers that actually became then some sort of bank of knowledge from the community that, in this case, was actually very active in the success of this project. This is the Yoi Kusama project, very different type of project. This was a project that had to deal with a massive scale. And dealing with scale is obviously a difficult thing because you want to maintain the idea of intimacy with this type of dialogue. And so in this case, the angle was very simple. It was really based on Yoi Kusama herself, who just couldn't be more appropriate to the conversation we're having now, said that I had this point of view on community that was very much visually expressed by her art, which is the idea of that each of us is one polka dot among billions and billions of polka dots, and especially that with just one polka dot nothing can be achieved. And so it's interesting to look into it under this lens. The idea was that each polka dot was actually there was a lot of emphasis on each of these polka dots to be different. So there was a lot of sort of a very intentional imperfection that was created in this campaign to maintain this idea of intimacy. And then obviously the campaign took a massive scale. The idea was clearly that she was the responsible artist for all these dots, and the other of course layer of this was to introducing her to the world. So creating this digital version of her that was introducing her face to the few people who didn't know it at the time. Obviously, this is Shibuya Crossroad in Tekenoma. This is a project that's completely different. It's an editorial project. It's a book, one of my first projects of this type. I was asked by this editor to create a book called Jefferson Hug, to create a book that would capture his past work, which had an impressive range, decades and decades of creativity. And we just didn't feel like talking about the past in a way that would sort of somehow make it feel old, as it often happens. And so the idea was to take everything and sort of swap upside down the notion of retrospective. And retrospective is typically a concept that relies on this form of respect for the work you've done in the past. And in this case, we partnered with Kodak. We took over this algorithm and injected all the pages of the book into this machine that created 5,000 unique covers by just destroying them and mashing them.
We hacked an algorithm previously used to create hyper-targeted marketing to do the exact opposite: create chaos. We inserted all the pages of the book into the system and let the algorithm randomly merge them into each other. The result? Each of the 5,000 copies of the book has a completely unique cover design. The most iconic images from Jefferson's past, completely reinvented to create something entirely new. Disrupting the sense of control that dominates fashion, we created covers the authors of the book will never see, letting a machine distort the precious work of the most iconic photographers.
So the idea here, obviously, that is leaking into this conversation, it's that of control, because these methods we are proposing in this edit is really forcing the process to delegate control, to just welcome the world of interpretation of ideas. And so in this case, it's very, very obvious. The covers are all unique, but I would never see them all. So who knows what's in one of them. But that's sort of the point of this project. On the completely end of the spectrum, a couple of other projects that I did with Italian Vogue. This is it's in this point in the presentation because it's kind of a completely opposite type of effect, but the message is still a provocative message. And this is a cover left completely blank during COVID when we felt that, together with the editor Emanuele, we felt that every message could feel somehow self-indulgent, and that maybe the best possible thing that we could do was to just not speak. White is obviously also the symbolic for the hospital and the people that were going through a tough time in Italy. But most importantly, I think in this conversation becomes a gesture that I feel like I like to call action. There is this saying, says an image worth 1,000 words, but I feel like an action sometimes is worth 1,000 images. And I think with an action, I mean something that has consequences, something that implies a form of courage, of giving up something in order to communicate something. And I feel like some of the next few pages have this type of projects that we created with Vogue. In this case, for example, as an experiment on ecology, we thought, what can we do beside actually making our process a formula that potentially can be pioneering new ways of creating. But obviously, you need to leave something behind. So in this case, we created, I guess for the first time since the invention of photography, an issue that was completely made with illustrations. Therefore, it didn't require any of the photographic production that implies travels and traffic and a lot of the sort of production consequences. And we just sent pictures of these models and the clothes to painters, and they created covers from home. Obviously, it's not a project that's meant to be repeated forever. It's just a potential way into the same problem. And it has the flavor of sort of trying to dispel some of the common assumptions, such as photography is the only medium to discuss fashion. In this one, it's a similar attempt to create a magazine that wouldn't feature any leather, any fur, and dedicating the issue to animals. Obviously, similar type of attempt in the sense of devoting your most precious asset to something that has a message and not a fashion brand on the cover. But it was, it just felt like a responsibility to propose new ways of creating around like a 100-years-old type of format, which is the magazine. This is a project with Prada that is quite recent. It was a provocation on, it's an advertising campaign, it's a provocation on the idea of shareability, in the sense that these images have people on the phone, and you see in all the communications, people talking on the phone, and but then the campaign took it one step further, and we had a hotline. We promoted a hotline in which the author Miranda July would be on the other side. So the audience would be inspired to call this number and have a very personal conversation with the voice of Miranda, not actually Miranda herself. But it was created through an algorithm in a way that everyone calling would have a very personal experience. And it's obviously an experiment in understanding how the digital world can go back to experiences that are potentially not shareable, but because of it feel more unusual. This other project it's maybe the oldest here, and it's from 2018. It's a Versace project, my first project in fashion, pretty much. It was the 20th anniversary of Gianni Versace's death, and so Donatella Versace asked me to help her in speaking about Versace from a different generation. So what I felt was interesting to do, and it connects to the conversation we're having today, was to actually not talk about Versace as a brand, but really talk about Versace as an idea, as part of culture. And so instead of using the Medusa, that is the corporate symbol, we borrowed Medusa from the Met Museum. And instead of using the Versace logo, we created many ways to spell Versace with actual material objects. And so that the whole project would feel for a new generation approaching the brand as this was something that, first of all, was not just a brand, but second, would have a lot of personalities. I remember a quote from Gianni Versace that said on TV, "I don't know which one is the Versace woman." I found it when I was doing this sort of thinking. She could be this, she could be that, or maybe she's all of them. And so, in that sense, the brand was one and many. And the idea of talking about Versace as a word was also behind this film that was very simple, but it was inspiring everyone to just say Versace in their own way, and it became some sort of mantra.
Versace, 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 Versace.
So it was obviously quintessentially an idea about fragmentation of the ways each of us can feel like their own version of Versace. And then the word Versace became, for following campaigns, for me, again, the idea, just to, and connecting that very simple idea to, again, the idea of community and the idea of plurality. And so this idea that Versace is really a plural idea, in this case, obviously, very simple to understand. It's, those are forming the word Versace. This was actually a campaign that was a record of more models in an image. I think it was 52, might be still is. And it was really created on this idea of collective view on something that typically is perceived as quite monolithic. It goes on for a while. Again, the word Versace was also a way to play with different type of interpretation. There are 20 or 30 ways we use to spell, to create the idea, just picking one of them. I wanted to show it because she just, it's maybe her second day not being the designer at Versace, and so it's like a homage to Donatella, who I forcefully introduced in the campaigns as soon as I joined, because I felt that she was the best way to speak about Versace, possibly. Okay, endless. There's endless. This is a recent idea. It's current, actually. It's out now. It's a campaign for Prada that has plays with a different type of multiplicity, and it's about the idea of individuality in a way. There's Carey Mulligan interpreting different characters, and that obviously comes from the idea that Ms. Prada displayed during the collection, where each look was representing a character. But in the campaign, we then wanted to challenge another layer of the sort of understood dogma of luxury, which is the fact that images speak and sometimes words are not needed. In this case, we asked writer Ottessa Moshfegh, who's a great novelist of today, someone I've collaborated with in the past, to actually write 10 short stories, each of them inspired by each image. And so this sort of campaign became a piece of literature, like an actual book with 10 stories that talk about the characters in a way that inspires, I guess, each of us to validate our own ability to create stories around an image. I'm almost done, I think, because we're going to have a conversation, but the next project is a campaign for Stone Island, which also is really interactive in the sense that Stone Island it's a brand that's very technical, it's a brand about research, and when they asked me to join, this is current as well, I proposed to actually, we all agreed on shifting the research just from the clothes to actually the people, the community that we are involving. And so each person that takes part of the campaign is asked to respond to a lot of questions. These questions have been written prior to the campaign start by my dear collaborator Ansuri Kobrist, and each character in the campaign answers to the questions in ways that are...
My father, great composer, great jazz bassist Bill Lee, John Coltrane, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin, Michael Jackson, The Beatles.
There's a lot of obviously subtleties that you learn from. This is a different project that has a different type of interactivity at the core. And again, I was saying I wanted to show as many as possible because I feel like each of them has a different angle, and so they might help the conversation later. In this one, the images were shot in black and white, and they were painted by hand. And then the idea was to actually gift the Prada paint to really inspire sort of like the extra layers of this type of experiment. So I feel like there is a form of generosity that is needed when ideas open up to something that feels, like we said, fragmented, but also, as I said, less controlled. This is another project in which the stories of the people became the stories of the advertisement. Sometimes these models, 99% of the time, they become really famous for their look, but it's really quite shocking how little we know about them. In this case, the campaign was shot as a fashion image, and then these characters were interviewed in a long session where we would learn about them, and then one object would be picked to feature in the actual advertising campaign. So basically half the budget of the advertising campaigns was devoted, past the space, to advertising outside of their personality that we wouldn't otherwise know.
My first choice was African drums, but the year when I was about to go in the conservatory, they canceled this section, so I had to choose my second option, who was trombone.
While acting, have I ever had, some challenge of what to do with my hands? And similarly, even in life, Is there something in acting that makes me feel comforted or that solves that problem, or in life that gives me some comfort?
Working in the ER was really cool, and it changed me as a human. I was just in general more grateful for everything, because you see what everyone goes through there. It made me a more confident person.
In this case, a different project, the word Prada was asked to be spelled was spelled in many different ways, proposing these acronyms that were meaning completely different things, but somehow felt they all belonged to the idea. And then obviously the public was invited to
Pursue rarity and defy apathy. Prada. Plain, redefined as daring ambition.
And this is the consumer-generated, sort of like the audience contributed to this project by creating a lot of very interesting definitions. This last project, very old, is an Adidas project where an experiment in trying to sort of like reinvent the role of retail, and in trying to create a form of commerce that would be just spelled via text, and through a chatbot there would be an interaction with the machine that would respond to you as if it was some sort of delivery person, and then you would receive your items without any physical interaction with a retail dynamics, but actually with an interaction with a personalized chatbot. So I think I see that we have 20 seconds left, so we should have a conversation as we planned, because otherwise it's going to go for.
Yeah. Should we sit down? Yeah, fitting song. I always dreamt of being in a room full of designers talking about fashion and Vogue magazine and everything like that. So, but thank you for this, really creative. One thing though, I'm a big fan of words and language. You use a lot of, you use language as a source in many projects that you do. Why is that?
I feel like, I think that it's part of the process more so than the output. Okay. I feel like words are obviously something that have less layers of, have less, I guess, layers that divide us in a way. I feel like words are a minimal, like a more minimal form of distillation of an idea. So this role of words comes from, mostly from the way I come up with the ideas and communicate with the teams and arrive at something. And then, of course, they also exist in the work.
Yeah, we were talking about when you have an idea or something, creative thought, you start off describing it with words, not with images.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you find that more, you know?
I think it's important to focus and also to think in abstract terms, to think about what we want to say before we get excited about how we want to say it.
Or put the image in.
And I think even if ideas often start from a very visual, instinctive inspiration, I think it's important for me to understand them. And in order to understand something, my personal process forces me to put it down in words. I'm not talking about a chapter, I'm talking about a very, very simple form of definition that has some tension, that then can sort of be the North Star for that complexity we described in the way it comes to life.
And I find it also really interesting when you approach a thing like you know, the cover of Vogue or something established like that. You come with a completely different aspect of it, multiply 100 different versions and let it speak, as of tell a story. It's one. Because fashion, I mean, we used to look at it, feel it, but maybe not having it talk to us. Do you think that's?
Yeah, I think it talks to us in many ways, but I feel like it just feels very natural, I think, to sort of break down this distance. I don't think that the distance can only be created through inaccessibility. I think there is a form of distance that you can create also through proximity. It's a distance that generates desire, but doesn't need to play with the old school sort of dogma of inaccessibility.
Yeah, and you take, you know, something established and
I think also stories really engage us at a deeper level. So a lot of these ideas find ways to hear stories that from people that become really precious.
Is it always easy to find interesting stories out of everything?
To be honest, a lot of the points of these ideas is really not to manufacture things. And in many of these examples, as I was trying to explain, I feel like there is a layer of openness, of generosity to some sort of risk taking. But I feel like if it starts from the idea, so nothing is wrong really in the right context.
Well, I have no idea what time is left, but we'll just keep on talking. Is that the clock there? Yeah. Okay. And also, I was also thinking about, you know, there's a completely different world for all creators now, you know, with this tsunami of AI coming at us with creativity, you know, using ideas legally or not legally, getting inspiration from everywhere. How do you cope? How do you find a way to navigate through all the inspo?
Well, I think this conversation about source forced me to think about things from a different angle, and I do strongly believe that for me at least, there isn't such thing as the inspiration. I think for me there's this very active, ongoing process that in a way becomes a source, you know, and I think it's really the passage from the idea of something that you expect and the idea of something that just grows. So I think that the world today is, as always, is actually a great place for creativity. It's just about acknowledging the context and not sort of dismissing it. That's for sure.
Yeah. And creating new things and finding new perspectives and all that. But when you talk with creatives now, they're excited. They're also scared of this new era of creativity. But I think creative people will always find a way to do creative stuff, but maybe not getting paid for it. But that's another story. And originality and all this, how do you find, do you still find it easy just to find, something that, lights you up and takes you to new places, or do you have to?
No, I think it's always like sculpting a way into provoking, I think, a new, I feel like for me these projects are just a few of many, because fashion is a very fast industry. But I think that's what I hope it comes across is really the intention to propose new ways, to propose new formula, not necessarily to establish them as something that will last forever or that is a new rule. It just there's a pleasure in forming new ways of doing something. And why can't a book have 5,000 different covers? Why why can't a magazine cover feature nothing? I think. That really moves me, the idea of trying to propose new models. And then I think that type of process can be applied to a lot of disciplines. It's just about taking the responsibility, embracing the responsibility together with your partners and the context in which you operate to utilize these opportunities that are amazing at some level to actually maybe create new ways of doing something that maybe are old, reproposed, like the book, for example, that we just talked about. It's a very old formula, but a book in today's world is obviously a different meaning than a book 20 years ago.
Of course, yeah, it was really interesting approach to that. Back to language, you're from Italy. I'm from Iceland. We're both talking in English about visuals, so we're far from our source, linguistically speaking. Do you find it easy just would you prefer to do everything in Italian, or do you find it, for myself, I'm a completely different person when I speak English. I don't feel comfortable doing it because I'm not really good at it, but I'm kind of good at Icelandic, so it's another guy.
I'll never meet you in Icelandic.
No, I mean, so I wonder if the creative person working with different types, if you're not working with your native language.
To be honest, for me this question is quite peculiar because I started all my work, all this phase of my life has developed in New York. And I went there when I was 19 the first time, and then I moved there when I was maybe 25. And I haven't done.
Feel comfortable.
Yeah, my whole identity that was, this is actually all this work is maybe 6 or 7 years old. Maybe the book is a little longer, but so even just between my New York life and this and the beginning of this type of projects, I feel like my life has been in English. So I never meet.
But I'm just interested because everything is on your first slide there. We're avoiding complexity, and always we're trying to make everything smooth and
standardized.
I think in every civilization there is a lot of complexity yet to be mined, and in every language there's complexity that hasn't been used to create art. English is used very much, but I think there's a lot of aspects in every culture and every civilization yet to be explored, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do really feel like complexity is just a word for everything, like embracing really the contradictions that we are surrounded by, especially in this industry, but in every industry, in design we're speaking about. And it's sort of an ode to the idea that, like one of the most fruitful and positive notion that we all agree on, the idea of community, actually has a very similar DNA, the idea of what we call complexity. And I don't mean that the ideas should be simple, like in a way, I mean, all these ideas, when I feel proud of them, it's because they're so simple, like a child could point at it and say, the one of the paint. But I feel like for complexity, I don't mean complex ideas, I mean ideas that acknowledge the fragmented and complex landscape around us. Not just media landscape, more like the source that the constant source of reinterpretation. For example, the white cover for Vogue generated hundreds of covers from people at home that recreated it. But in general, I think every message leaves us and becomes something else in the hands of someone else.
Exactly. I think we're out of time.
Great.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think we have a nice fragrance coming up soon. So let's give it up. Thank you.
Ingibjörg and Lilja Birgisdætur, Fischersund. Comprised of the siblings Inga, Jónsi, Sigurós and Lilja, along with partners Sindri and Kjartan, the Fischersund Art Collective brings together their combined fine art and musical training into one creative force within Icelandic, immersive, conceptual, contemporary art. Their storytelling unfolds through their scents, complemented by music, visual arts, and poetry, with their latest work inspired by the native plant species in Iceland and the scientific relationship between scent and memory.
We have some people outside handing out some magic.
I think you can see our friends. They are handing out these little samples here. So be patient, it's coming.
We're going to take you on a little scented journey. We're going to go back to old Reykjavík. We're going to show you a scent that is inspired by our father working at the docks many, many years ago. So just pass it along.
It's a very nice sound. It's coming from the
ASMR. Crackling ASMR. And when all of you have gotten this beautiful scented blotter, we're going to take it out, plastic, and smell it. So does everybody have one? Yeah. Yes. Vanessa? Yes. All right. Now, for the next project. Now, I want you to close your eyes. It's very important to close your eyes. And take up the strip and smell it. And I'm gonna take you back to old Reykjavík. Smoke in the air and tarred telephone poles. Anise seeds and black pepper, tail freshly mowed grass and tobacco leaves. Dead flowers bowed to the ground. In the breeze, the feminine fountain pine tickles the top of your skull. A beached whale is about to explode. Reykur í loftinu og tjargaðir símastaurar.
Anísfræ og svartur pipar fylgja nýslegnu grasi og tóbakslaufum. Dauð blóm hneigja sig. Í golunni kyllar kvenleg lindifuran vitin. Í fjöru strandaður rotnandi hvalur.
Hi everybody. We are Fischersund, a family-run perfumery and art collective. And what you just experienced, smelled, saw and heard was our signature scent number 23. Our first scent actually that we released. And it's inspired by old Reykjavík and our brother Jóns's memory of working with our father at the Harpa down here at Slipperinn. I think we need to thank the DesignMarch's team and the DesignTalks first. It's been an amazing day. We're like full of inspiration. Yes. And we are really excited to share a little bit about our story and our atmosphere. Yeah. My name is Inga. I am the art director and head designer at Fischersund.
And my name is Lilja. I am the brand ambassador and an art director. And we are here today with our partners, Kjartan Holm, this guy, and Sindri Már Sigfússon. And they are composers, and they make up the music department of Fischersund, alongside our brother Jónsi, who some of you might know from the band Sigur Rós. But what many people don't know is that Jónsi is actually also a perfumer. He's our nose and has been making perfumes for the past 16 years. Alongside with our sister Sigur Rós, who is also the head artisan. And of course, our parents are very much involved. Our father, he was a metalsmith before he stopped working and started showing up every day at our workshop. Calls us if we're late to work. Complaining that we're not there yet.
Yeah. He does our incense and he treats the tins that the incense are in.
Yeah, and builds everything we need to build, the perfect man to have around.
Yes.
And then of course our mom, who is here. Mama. She has the biggest role of us all. She is the moral support, you know, the rock that keeps us, you know, sane.
Yeah. And
babysits.
And the bringer of baked goods as well.
Exactly. Very beautiful.
Yeah, so it's safe to say that the source for Fischersund is family. We started the Fischersund adventure in 2017, so it's been a few years. And we all have different backgrounds. We are musicians and photographers and visual artists and perfumers and writers and all that, and we had been working in different corners for all these years, and we always wanted to create this platform for us to come together and do something together, where we could bring all of our different skill sets and ideas and build something bigger. So it's kind of like Fischersund is our safe space. We can bring like all of our crazy ideas and are almost always supported. And everyone brings something to the table, and then we can tell a deeper story.
Mm-hmm. And we hang out a lot. And growing up in a big, active family, we have this kind of shared bank of memories. And we pull a lot from these memories in our work. A lot of our scents are actually inspired by our shared memories. For example, number 8, Fischersund number 8, is inspired by our childhood memories of growing up in Moselsbær in the 80s.
Exactly this.
Yeah, exactly. And we lived by the mountains, and you know, it was like dirt roads and young families building their first house. And
we're always outside.
Yeah, there's freedom.
Yeah, eating rhubarb.
Yeah. Camping in the
yeah,
backyards.
Exactly.
And then another scent that we did is called Fischersund number 101, and which is kind of just a postal code of Reykjavík, downtown Reykjavík. And because in one moment in time, all of us 4 siblings used to live at kind of like the same street corner in Reykjavík and in rental apartments. So like the gardens, there was nobody to attend to the gardens. So they were very like overgrown and beautiful. Like the gardens you see in downtown Reykjavík. So
yeah,
it's very beautiful. Like after rain, it was like this green scent coming over. So, and the icon of the scent was actually the plastic chair, which is the only thing that can survive the Icelandic weather. And then one of our most popular scents is called Útilikt, and Útilikt is inspired by our shared memories of being together outside.
Yeah, I think all Icelanders know this weather. Horizontal rain, everything is gray. This is outside our window in the 90s. And actually, if you've been visiting for a few days, you probably experienced this in the past few days. But all Icelanders also know the sensation of útilikt, which is something you experience when you've been outside for an extended period of time, and you come in and your clothes and hair and skin smell of útilikt, which is just the scent of the outside. Yeah. And Útilikt, our perfume, is actually a collaboration project that we did with the clothing brand 66 Degrees North. And it's sometimes difficult to find a common spark or a source when you start a project like this. But it took one very fun Zoom meeting. It was during COVID, so it was on Zoom, and like a perfumery and a clothing brand, and we just straight away started to talking about this útilikt, and everybody connected, and everybody had memories and started sharing them. Yeah. So that was really fun. And this, this project was very special because it was not just a perfume, but it was so much more, and it was easy because we had this connection. It grew to music. The guys went and recorded sounds from all over Iceland. We built installations and sculptures and And this type of sensorial design is something that we are very obsessed with. We want to elevate every medium. And if you take a scent, you can elevate it with music. And if you take visual art, you can elevate it with words. So it's very important to us to tell this deeper story and even transport people to a different place or a different feeling with this type of design. For example, another perfume that we made was a few DesignMarch's ago, and that was 4:45. And there we wanted to transport the audience to a very specific moment. And that's the moment when you are in a club in Reykjavík, you're partying until it closes, and then you go outside and it's summertime, and you go out in sunshine and a fresh night/morning. And it's this transition between the dark and dingy and loud club to this very fresh and sunny morning, and we wanted to take people just there.
Mm-hmm. And to illustrate this feeling, we created a scent where we put together different elements of this moment of walking out, two birds singing, and we
of this nightclub that maybe we experienced when we were a little bit younger and not falling asleep on the couch at 2 p.m.
No, exactly. But so this element of the bar, like sweat
and cigarette smoke, you could smoke inside during that time.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Sugary drinks.
Sticky floor.
Yeah. Leather jackets. Mm-hmm. Nothing more sexy. And we even distilled a chair from the legendary bar, Kaffibarinn. that had, survived, a few kisses or tears or whatever. And
drinks and
yes, and we distilled it into an oil that was in this perfume, so it was a very limited edition. And the boys created some techno music. I don't know why we should be playing that. But you can listen to it on our Spotify. We of course have a Spotify. And then we also turned our store into a bar. So you could come in, order a drink, have a seat by the bar.
Mm-hmm. And we love going this distance, like stretching our ideas to the fullest and to make these meaningful connections, because we want to connect with people. And although we are working with this very specific memories, both from our childhood and just from living here in Iceland, we are always pleasantly surprised how people from everywhere are connecting with these memories. It seems like teen angst is the same everywhere in the world. Yeah. And if you're mowing the lawn, it's like the smell of fresh grass, freshly mowed grass is also the same everywhere in the world.
And it's really interesting because people don't really think much about the sense of smell. Maybe think of it like, burn your toast or the milk is sour. But the sense of smell is very powerful. It's one of the oldest senses and is directly connected to our memories and emotions. So you can really evoke feelings with scent. We're so used to using our eyes, being very critical, analyzing everything, but music and scent has this way of bypassing all of our walls and just hit us, and we react. And I think it's very beautiful. And scent can transport you to a place or remind you of something.
Yeah.
And we feel it's a very powerful tool in storytelling.
And one of our biggest projects today is the Faux Flora exhibition. The Faux Flora is our made-up flora. We had an exhibition in Seattle in the fall of 2024. And it's an exhibition in 5 parts where we divide the exhibition into 5 stages of a flowering plant, which is germination, growth, flowering, seed forming, and seed dispersal. And we superimpose that onto the life of a human being, which is birth, childhood, adolescent, adulthood, and death. And these flowers, in each section we had many flowers, and the flowers in each section just grew from our memories and our experiencing. For example, the flowers in the birth section were all about milk and freshly washed clothes and skin and saliva and all that. And here, for example, let's wait a little bit. Here was a sample from our adolescent section. And this flower is called Truno, or bathroom heart-to-heart. And you can't smell it here, but it really smells of makeup and tears, like very cheap perfumes. And if you listen closely, you can hear like whispers and crying. Somebody's crying over lost love, and somebody's taking a selfie, and yeah. And the idea behind Faux Flora actually came when we were working on our perfumes, because we work with these raw materials that both are essential oils that come from just plants from all over the world, and you can like see exactly where they come from. And then we work with these fragrance molecules that are made in a lab. And we were just so fascinated by these fragrance molecules because they were so abstract. And we started to imagine what the plants, if they were derived from real plants, what would their plants look like, and what would they, like, where would they grow? And then we started to make our own scents and our own plants.
and these beautiful digital flowers by Inga. Sorry, they're beautiful. And we wanted the exhibition to be all-consuming, like you were walking into a forest or a garden. Like you could see the flowers all around you, you could smell them, you can hear them. And on the opening night, we had 2 sold-out scented concerts. And that is another kind of thing that we have been working on for a long time, is a scent concert. So what is that? So basically it's held in like a typical maybe concert venue, but we take it a step further by adding this sensorial experience with scent and performance arts and visual arts. So, and then another thing is that we have been very excited about is how can we do that in a more quiet setting with like fewer people, and so we've done these sound baths, which is like people
maybe a scent bath. Yeah,
exactly, a scent and sound bath, where people are like bathed in music and scent and spoken words, and yeah, it's like very cozy. And then one thing that we recently just did, which we're very excited about, is that we did a scented dinner in now in LA now with Gísli from Slipperinn in Soho House in LA. And that was such an amazing thing to add that element of like food, like taste. So that was a beautiful journey of like, scent, sound, taste, visual art,
The last sound bath we held was actually in Seattle when we were closing off our exhibition, and over 40,000 people came to visit it, which was really mind-blowing. But for the people who couldn't attend and couldn't experience it in person, we created the Faux Flora box set, which is all of the scent from the 5 sections: birth, childhood, adolescent, adulthood, and death, accompanied with music and poetry. So it was kind of an exhibition in a box. So you could take that journey just on your couch in the living room. And if you have a moment, this DesignMarch's, you can check out the box at our store, and we are also like previewing or premiering our new bottle, which is also going to be the first scent from our Faux Flora collection.
Yeah. So now we're gonna do one more scent, right?
Yeah. I think we're going to.
Am I right?
Yes, I think you're right.
Yes. So now we're going to take on a little scent journey. This is something that's very close to our heart right now. It's our birth scent.
Yeah, Faux Flora number 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's germination or birth. So it's we end with a beginning, if you will, or as Emmanuel say, like the birth is not new life, so it's recycling. So we end with a recycling. We have a small gift for you that our team is handing out right now. And inside there's a small vial.
And while you're passing it out,
and we really want you to spray it either on yourself, you can spray it on your skin, or you can use this little note here to use as a blotter. maybe we want to take this moment to thank the DesignTalks team again. It's been such an honor to take part in this talk. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. And thank you for being here with us today.
So everyone got that?
Yes. So let's end this together. We're all gonna give birth. Now close your eyes and smell. I'm gonna read to you. Frjóvgun, or germination. White porcelain mountain milk flows from watery lips. Pearl-scent pale seedlings burst through dry concrete. Out from cotton cloud curtains, a beam of light breaks. Dust particles levitate still mid-air. Shimmering, burning distant stars. A silvery string of saliva beads. Embrace soft skin. Out of darkness into light. Baby's breath, first leaf. Postulínskvít fjallamjólk drýpur af votum vörum. Perlar á föla græðlinga sem brjótast í gegnum þurra steypu. Ljósgeisli smýgur inn skýjuð bómullar gluggatjöld. Rykagnir fljóta þyngdarlausar í loftinu. Fjarlægar stjörnur glitra, brenna. Silfurþráður fléttaður munnvatni. Umvefur viðkvæmt skinn. Út úr myrkri inn í ljós. Barnsgrátur fyrsta lauf. Takk fyrir okkur.
You people just want to hang, just be in your faux flora and real aura.
You can be our adopted sister.
Okay. But luckily, we get to hang out a little bit more.
Yes.
Because we're going to the design drinks. Which means that it's over. Which is kind of good and bad, I guess. No? It's been amazing. I just want to, of course, thank you all. Thank all the speakers who were here, made the journey to come and share mind-blowing ideas, processes, their sources in various ways. It's been a journey, right? Okay, so now we're in this kind of slow-mo, kind of nice birth. Remember, birth is not the beginning. That's something we learned today.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Learned that today.
So on that note, I invite you all to walk up the himnastigar, the stairs of heaven, which are the stairs, out by Ólafur Elíasson, I guess, or his team, or the architects, sorry. Just by the window, all the way up to La Primavera. And there we will be greeted by Cyber, DJ set. Ooh. On another note, still quite feminine in another way. Mm-hmm. Are we ready? Is it good? Are we happy? Okay. Woo! So. See you next year. Woo-hoo.